Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Sabbath School. Nope. Okay. Welcome back to Sabbath School Boot Camp. Sabbath School Boot Camp is here to help you think critically and creatively about your Sabbath School lesson. For a Sabbath School class to be successful, you don't just need a good teacher, you need good students. We want to help you take your class to the next level. This is week 6, and we are taking another look at Jesus as the master teacher. Take a seat.
Welcome back to Sabbath School Boot Camp. Our mission is to help you think creatively and critically about your Sabbath School lesson. So let's get in the bunker and get going.
This lesson is called More Lessons from the Master Teacher, which is a poor title. I mean, the lesson is really about how Jesus was the second Adam and taught us the way back to God. So, maybe you could have called it that. Anyway, the lesson, as usual, is kind of a thematic mess. It's about Jesus, but we spend most of the time outside of the Gospels and, actually looking at the stories of Jesus' teaching. But hey, we roll with the punches here on Sabbath School Boot Camp. We have our orders from the generals, so let's jump in. Here is how I would summarize this lesson. Jesus was in the world as God was in the garden, finding lost people and returning them to God. Here are a couple of questions to get your class talking. First, we will talk in this video about how our spiritual condition is connected to the physical and emotional and mental aspects of our humanity. What are some ways our spiritual lives affect these other aspects? Second, what does it mean to be restored to God in a sinful world? We talk about Jesus reversing the fall and lifting us up, but what does that look like? On Sunday, we are looking at two major texts, Genesis 3 and Romans 5. I think the lesson is right that when God asks Adam, "Where are you?" it's not because God doesn't know where Adam is, right? It's because God wants Adam to think about where he is in relation to God. As the New English Translation's note on this verse reads, the question of "where are you" really has the force of "why are you hiding?" This is why Adam doesn't answer, "You caught me! I was hiding behind the oak tree." No, Adam says, "I heard you coming, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." Adam understands the meaning of the question, and he answers so honestly and so innocently. So this text in Genesis 3 sets up our problem. Humanity is fallen, afraid, alienated, naked, and hiding from God. So we move on to Romans 5, where Paul famously makes the connection between Adam and Jesus. The fact that Jesus came to fix what Adam and Eve had broken tells us that this story of the fall isn't a polite fairy tale on the origin of evil. It is a central story in our story. It is the great question left unanswered. What is to be done about the shame, nakedness, fear, and hiding of humanity? The question is left unanswered in Genesis 3 until Paul makes the connection between what Adam did and what Jesus did. I say Paul makes the connection, but it might be better to say that he makes it explicit. Matthew and Luke carry these themes of Jesus overcoming the devil in the wilderness and then going to meet his Father in baptism. It's almost as if the gospel writers are saying, this is how Adam's story should have gone. But they don't spell it out. They only trace the themes for us. Sunday ends with the point that Christian education must follow the contours of this salvation story. We go from hiding to being found, from lostness to being saved, from ignorance to knowledge, from foolishness to wisdom. And on this journey, we must learn what we must unlearn. Christian education must take the fall into account. But it must also take into account that the fall is not the end of the human story. So Christian education must map out the way that has been opened for us. This isn't just a theological point, because if we are genuinely fallen as human beings, then it is criminal not to point the way for us to be unfallen. If all history is conspiring to lead us to this new humanity, to this new kingdom that is coming, then we must educate people in the direction humanity is traveling. Moving to Monday, we are back in Genesis 28 with the story of Jacob. Jacob had just deceived his father and defrauded his brother and was off to find a wife from among his cousins. Jacob Jacob is also on the run from Esau. Along the way, he had a dream of the stairway or ladder to heaven, and in this dream, God promises to bless him. From outward appearances, no one deserved it less than Jacob. This ladder represents Jesus. In John 1, verse 51, Jesus says that you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. Jesus is that bridge between heaven and earth. And so he finds this runaway son of Adam in the desert and opens Jacob's eyes so that he can see Jesus represented as the gate of heaven. And this leads Jacob to say something remarkable. He says, surely the Lord is in this place, but I did not realize it. Ooh, I get goosebumps. We've gone from running away from God's presence to a state of being where we don't even know where God is anymore. It turns out that God is with us, Emmanuel, and we don't even realize his presence anymore. We may have run, we may have grown blind, but God is still looking for his children, and we go around demanding evidence that God is there, asking him to prove his presence. God doesn't change. The same God that looked for Adam in the garden is looking for you and me. He is with us even if we aren't with him. One final note. Jesus is there, as Jacob says, as the gate of heaven. Do you know what one meaning of the word Babylon is? Gate of the gods. Babylon is the anti-Jesus. It promises to be another way into heaven. Trucking over to Tuesday, we are back in John chapter 1, just like last week. In fact, we are back in the exact same verses we looked at last week. The point here is that this ladder or stairway is now found in the flesh. The promise is made visible. And the theme of this lesson, Jesus came not just as the second Adam, but as the God walking through the wilderness east of Eden, finding lost Adams and lost Eves, and sending them back toward the garden. We think of teaching in terms of subjects. We need to learn math or how to pour a concrete driveway. Jesus came to show us a way back to the garden, and this is the truth that makes all other truths true. Jesus wants us to be found, and if we can be found and stay in the garden with him as we were meant to, we have all of eternity to learn trigonometry. Though I sincerely hope we don't have to. When we say Jesus was teaching us spiritual things, this doesn't mean truth that was confined to matters of religion. We are all spiritual beings. And this spiritual problem of sin affects our physical and mental and emotional selves as well. Jesus is teaching us things about the deepest parts of ourselves. Waltzing over to Wednesday, we are talking about the Canaanite woman. You know, the one who kept after Jesus until the disciples told Jesus to get rid of her. Even Jesus is rude to her. The more Jesus and his disciples sought to discourage her, the more she took the humble road. She seemed to accept that Jesus' mission wasn't for her. It was to his own people. Nevertheless, her daughter's life was at stake. She would insert herself into Jesus' mission if she had to, just like Mary inserted herself into Jesus' mission at the wedding feast. Women are all the time inserting themselves into Jesus' story. Jesus had to stay laser focused on his mission. He didn't have time to teach everybody everything, but this is a woman who wanted to be taught. And how can Jesus say no to that? Jesus will always teach someone who wants to be taught. Trotting to Thursday, and another student of Jesus, a blind man named Bartimaeus. Again, the disciples want Jesus to send the person away. Show respect to the teacher. What they saw as disrespect was really a desperate need, and Jesus could tell the difference. When Bartimaeus regained his sight, he followed Jesus on the road, and this was what Jesus was in the world doing. Finding people and leading them back to Eden. How is it a Canaanite woman and a blind man could see Jesus for who he was when the people closest to him couldn't? Sometimes the closest followers of Jesus are the ones furthest away. Sometimes even Jesus' best students need to learn from those who they never see in class. In fact, I don't believe you will ever be a good student of Jesus unless you learn to learn from those on the outside. That's all we've got time for this week. Class dismissed. We'll see you next week. I think it went all right. There were a few times when there was like a word with where I said it too long. A blind man named Bartimaeus. Bartimaeus? Bartimaeus. Okay, hold on. Well, that didn't work. Okay. Welcome back to Sabbath School Boot Camp. Sabbath School Boot Camp is here to help you think critically and creatively about your Sabbath School lesson. For a Sabbath School class to be successful,
Take that one to the top.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Sabbath School. No. Okay. Well, that didn't work. Okay.